Well, I think that's a really interesting question. I mean, that's the basic question that we need to be addressing. And it's like all industries, a highly technical area, a real profession where you get on by your technical ability. But that only really goes for maybe 10, 15 years beyond qualification. What we often see in professions like the pension industry is a plateauing. And the people who get on beyond that 15-year sort of plateau and really race ahead are the people who really understand about relationship building and become influential in their own organizations. They're good at building relationships, they know who to talk to, how to talk to them, who's important in the organization, who's important outside the organization, and they can use that knowledge to influence the right people, to get the right things done, and to enhance their own careers and their own personal power base. That's a kind of a mixture of all sorts of things. It's reputation, technical reputation, but it's also about the way in which they behave, the way in which they influence others, so that other people always appreciate them. They look to them for professional advice, but they also look to them for leadership, for decisions. So a combination of those things enhances the ability to take action, to make decisions, and to get other people to follow you. And that's really what we mean by developing a sort of personal power base or a personal power platform. Well, that also is a really good question, because it is obviously going to be a lot more complicated. But like most things, what you need to do is kind of break them down so they're usable. A lot of this comes from psychology, for instance, where you're looking at people's personality. But really, you can't do very much about your personality. You can't change where you went to school, you can't change your background or your upbringing. What you need to focus on are the things you can do something about. And these are your actual behaviors in the workplace. And we can actually break these down into sort of 5 broad areas and say, look, these are the things where if you do something about these areas, it does tend to enhance your power, your influence in the workplace. And that's why we sort of talk about these 5 areas. So we don't really talk about things you can't change. We talk about things you can change. It's a personal choice. It depends on the situation you're in. It depends on your existing strengths. In the job I do, I have to contact lots of people. I have to meet lots of new people. And therefore, there's 2 things that I have to focus on. And that's making a good impression, which I hope I do, and also enhancing a network, using a network, developing a network, making those contacts of contacts, those weak links, so I can reach out to people and I can talk to them and I can say, you can help me, I can help you, what could we do together? And sometimes when you've got a network like that, you're able to galvanize it, use it to get things done. And that same thing goes for people in organizations. They have to reach out beyond, for instance, the pensions department, reach out to the wider operational parts of the organization to get things done. So for me, it's making a good first impression and then looking at my network and developing that. Now I think that's an easy answer in a way. It's what we call apparent sincerity. And what that is about the impression that you build in somebody else's eyes, that you are always consistent, always sincere in what you do. You're not out for yourself, you're out for the organization, you're out for your people, and you're out for the best combination, the best deal, if you like, for your customers. And you've got to come across and you've got to be consistent, stick to your promises. And that can be really difficult, because if you're in a finance industry, you're in the estimating business. And quite often our estimates of what's going to happen in the future are not going to be very accurate. And that means that sometimes you get this kind of drip, drip, drip effect. And that affects how people perceive you as, are you sincere? Do you come across and keep your promises? Well, yes, you can, but strategically it's kind of difficult to do sometimes. Beyond those 5 things, I think there's one thing that you can do always, is always to be thinking about what your boss or what powerful people in the organization, what their goals are. Always being aware of the political picture, if I can use that term, and say, well, what are they after? What are they trying to achieve? And being in a position to help them. Because if you're in that sort of position to help them, they'll pay attention to you. And that will help your career develop, it'll help your power, it'll help your reputation be enhanced in your own organization. So if there's one thing beyond this, it's always figuring out what your boss's goals are, what your boss's priorities are. Well, my final message would be, going back to the first question you asked me about that sort of 15 years, 10, 15 years outside of qualification, where people go up and plateau. Just look at your own industry, look around your organization, and look at people who are really good for the first 10, 15 years, their careers develop, and then they plateau. And then compare them with the people who get on. The people who get on are the relationship builders, the people who build a personal power platform, the people who have influence. And that's my final message to you.